2 months ago I made a game for a game jam. It was a really simple game where you went down a slope trying to avoid obstacles as long as possible to put your name at the high score. After the game jam ended, I decided to start working on the game again. Not because it was a big success or a particularly good game, but because people actually seemed to find the core game mechanic quite fun. And that inspired me to keep working on the game to hopefully find out if it has any potential to become a commercial game project someday. So the concept for this game is a simple but yet addictive mechanic that's easy to pick up but hard to master. The main inspiration for it is the old classic game Skifree, which I played a lot as a child on my parents' Windows computer back in the days. So I guess you could say it's a kind of 3D Skifree inspired game, but with more content and a story and lore behind it to make it more interesting. But more about it later in this video. I'm really curious to see what you think of all the new additions I made to the game. But now let's get to the devlog. The most obvious thing needed to be fixed first was the overall look and style for the environment. I'm obviously not an artist in any means, but something had to be done because the game jam version was everything else but visually pleasing. So I opened up Blender and got to work. I wanted to make a background that sets the mood of being high up in the mountains on a lonely journey down the slope. And after some struggling, I managed to get something that looked decent and imported the model into Unity. By adding a lot of fog and even more fog, I finally had something that looked way better than the original environment. And while I was at it, I also created the slope pieces for the player to move on as well. I will probably remake this in future, but I had at least something to start off with. The most common feedback and request so far is to add more player characters to choose from. So I remade the player model and added some variations to it. I created 3 different player models, each one with their own unique choice of equipment. One with skis and poles, one guy with snowboard and a kid riding a snow racer. I asked you which one of these 3 you wanted to be the default character, and you wanted the snowboard guy, so let's name him Steve. Steve is a pretty chill guy, just wanting to cruise down the mountain and have some fun. The second character is the regular skier Brian. Brian is a bit of a daredevil and is the one who replaces our character from the previous devlog. There's not much to say about him other than he's the only one so far that cares about safety and wears a helmet. Speaking of safety, the third character obviously suffers from bad parenting, but he's maybe the character I personally like playing the most. You really do want to take this kid safely down the slope. Let's name him Dustin. Another common feedback from you was that the game is lacking variations with obstacles and dangers. The only obstacles currently are stones and trees, and the game needs more content, as some of you pointed out. One thing I wanted to add to the game jam entry but hadn't enough time to was an avalanche. An avalanche is maybe the most scary and frightening thing one can encounter when out skiing, so let's try to make one. I modeled a big chunk of snow in Blender, ready to set off from the mountains. After that, I created the controller script with a collider zone that will start the avalanche with an increasing speed. To stay true to reality, it will not be possible to outrun the avalanche, so your only chance is to move away to the side to avoid this danger. To give the player a fair chance before hell breaks loose, I added some cracks and some screen shake just before it picks up the speed. This actually felt kind of terrifying when the ground starts to shake and you spot the cracks in the snow. I programmed the script to parent the player to the avalanche object if you collide with it, and if you do, it's all over. Like it was for me during the first attempts. Okay, we have a working avalanche, let's move on and add more content to the game. One of my absolute favorite animals is goats. And do you know what lives high up in the mountains? Yeah, mountain goats. I believe these are a bit more grumpy than the regular goats that usually are friendly and loves to be petted. And you definitely should avoid them when skiing downhill a mountain, I think. Or at least in this game anyway. And it happens to be I do have a low poly goat model lying around in my assets, so let's bring him into the game and see what we can come up with. As you can see, he already looks quite angry, so I only need to give him some logic to react to the player. I created a goat controller script that triggers a chasing state when the player is getting too close. And if you are really close, like 10 meters away, and obviously violates his personal space, it will attack pretty fast and aggressive. You will still have the possibility to outrun the goat with some sharp turns, but the risk will be high for being knocked out, and that's bye bye and game over. I then added a knockout animation for the player and some code to activate gravity to player's rigid body when getting hit by the goat. I think the goat adds some life to the game but needs some more tweaking, like when this happens. Before continuing the work with adding more content, new biomes and other cool stuff to the game, I want to shift over to something real exciting and important: the lore and the objective for the game. I do have some vague ideas that I'm curious about what you think of. So I'm thinking about a mission-based gameplay where every level is a mission that has to be completed to get to the next one. In the beginning of every level, you are getting dropped off by a helicopter and gets instructions about the mission from a command center. The mission can be everything from rescuing people who have been stranded up in the mountains due to dangerous conditions and bring them down to the base camp. It can also be items that players have to collect down the slope from a crashed plane or something similar. Let me know in the comments if you think this kind of gameplay would work, or if you do have any other cool ideas for the game. I did make a promise in the last devlog. Okay, listen up. Anyone who succeeds to pass me on the leaderboard, I will have to give a shoutout in the next devlog. It's a promise. This is the current high score, and some of you are obviously more skilled than the developer, despite me playing it hundreds of times. I don't really get it how over 400 is even possible. Hatten av, as we say in Sweden. Link to the game down below. So, to wrap it up, the question remains, is this a game with potential that's worth expanding upon? Well, that's what I'm gonna figure out until next devlog. Don't forget to give this channel some love if you like this devlog and want some more. And I hope seeing you in the next one.